Tonight on News Prime, President Tinubu visits Ijebu-Ode, pays tribute to late Awujale. In business, federal government to enforce vehicle load clearance limits on bridges. On the foreign scene, Pope Leo calls for end to barbarity of war after strike on Gaza Church. And in sports tonight, Nigeria celebrates game of chess honors Tennyson. Hello and a very warm welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Prime on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Uyi Agmofwegbe, reminding our viewers that we are on DSTV channels 365 and Star Times 276. Let's begin tonight by telling you President Bola Tinubu has visited Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State to personally attend the 8th-day Fidel prayers in honor of the late Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetona, the Awujale of Ijebuland, who passed away after more than 6 decades on the throne. The revered monarch, widely celebrated for his wisdom, unwavering courage, and contributions to Nigeria's traditional and political landscape, was mourned by top dignitaries, including royal fathers, governors, and national leaders who gathered to pay their final respects. Nasiru Haladu Dano, the Sardauna Duse, has called for a special prayer session in honor of late Nigeria's former president, Muhammadu Buhari. The special prayer was held at Ansaruddin Mosque in Abuja, where Muslim faithful gathered to pray for the repose of the soul of the former army general, bringing together religious leaders, government dignitaries, and members of the public. Kabir Hassan was there for Global TV.
The Ansaruddin Mosque become a sacred ground of remembrance as Nigeria continues to mourn the passing of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. The prayer session was more than symbolic as the mosque completed the full recitation of the Holy Quran in his honor, a spiritual offering deeply rooted in Islamic traditions. As worshippers and dignitaries filled the mosque's heads bowed, voice united in prayers asking for forgiveness, peace and eternal rest for the late former leader. Beyond the religious rites, the gathering was a moment of reflection on Buhari's legacy, leadership and fleeting nature of power. The session was marked by deep spiritual and national reflection. Religious leaders led the congregation in prayer for forgiveness, mercy, and eternal peace for the late former president. The late ex-president's legacy, leadership, and impacts on the nations were key themes during the prayer session, with calls for unity and righteous leadership across the country. Among those present were notable Islamic clerics and government representatives, and all paying their respects in quiet dignity.
This is the 100th day of the night. This is our prayer for our father, General Muhammadu Buhari. May Allah grant our father a liberation for God. May Allah forgive our father. Bismillah, kullu Allahu once again. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Kullu Allahu ahad. Allahu samad.
Dignitaries took turn offering words of condolence, recalling former President Buhari's discipline, leadership and style, and praying for peace across the nation he once led.
All his life was a military through the leadership, even as the president of 8 years. He served this country with all his heart. And of course, 2.5 years after, it's like so as a father, as a mentor, as a leader. And this is a man who nobody respected. He was under the leader. So Nigeria have lost a leader, Nigeria have lost a father, Nigeria have lost one of the most prominent men in terms of integrity, in terms of honesty of leadership. Nobody is good of the life, so we have lost a father and mentor. So that's why we have to go to this.
Felt message, his wife Aisha Buhari, represented by Sadia Umar Farouk, former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, urged Nigerians to continue praying for her late husband, asking that his soul to be remembered with kindness and unity. As Nigerians continue to hold prayer session across different states, today's event at Ansar-ud-Din Mosque reaffirms the nation's respect for the life and times of late Muhammad Buhari.
Who has traveled all the way from Abuja to Kabra, and all the settlers, and those who have been praying, who have been praying, they are not reward every one of you. Allah answer all of them.
Hassan Kabir reporting for Global TV News.
Thank you so very much, Kabir. Imo State Governor Senator Hope Uzodinma has called for bold constitutional reforms to correct regional imbalance and strengthen Nigeria's unity. He made this known at the zonal public hearing on the Constitution Review for Imo and Abia State. Our correspondent Marachi Ibe reports.
The hearing in Owerri, organized by the 10th House of Representatives, brought together key stakeholders and community leaders. Governor Uzodinma listed 4 main demands: new state for the Southeast, recognition of place of birth for indigenship, rotation of presidency among Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones, and the creation of state police to improve local security.
For the constitutional entrenchment of rotational presidency, the rotational presidency not along the ambiguous north and the south divide. Since we have 6 geopolitical zones, it should be included into our constitution.
In his welcome address, Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, who chairs the House Committee on Constitution Review, urged citizens to share ideas that will help build a stronger and fairer nation.
Let us remember, constitutional reform is not an event, but a process. The bills we debate today will be debated in parliamentary plenary, harmonized with the Senate, and transmitted to the state houses of assembly for final approval. Only with your continuous engagement, your vigilance, your advocacy, can we ensure that these reforms are not just passed, but implemented.
Representing the Abia Governor, Deputy Governor Ikechukwu Emeto said, Abia does not see the need for a new state, but wants the existing ones to work better for the people.
If the 2023 governorship election was conducted with the template used in magically find independent sources of financing the new states outside what currently exists, not share the optimism of those promoting the idea of adding new states to the current 36 state structure.
Civil rights advocate Chris Uche summarized 86 bills before the committee, covering local government autonomy, devolution of power, electoral reforms, and stronger human rights protection.
The legislative efforts to address governance challenges, promote inclusivity, and enhance administrative efficiency in Nigeria.
Labor unions, the TUC, and the civil society groups also presented fresh recommendations for equity and grassroots development. The Deputy Speaker assured that all contributions will guide the 10th House of Representatives as it works to amend the 1999 Constitution to reflect the hopes of Nigerians. From Owerri, Amarachi Ibe reporting for Global TV News.
Still on the national dialogue tonight, stakeholders in the southwest of the country have renewed calls for constitutional reforms, advocating true federalism, state policing, and the devolution of powers. These demands were made during the Southwest Zonal Public Hearing on the review of the Nigeria's 1999 Constitution held in Lagos State. Aniete Patrick reports.
Calls for a more equitable and secure Nigeria echoed across the Southwest as stakeholders from Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo states gathered in Lagos for the Constitution Review public hearing. Organized by the House of Representatives Committee on Constitution Review, the session focused on pressing regional concerns, including the need to entrench true federalism and devolve more powers to the states. Representing Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Deputy Governor Obafemi Hamzat stressed the urgent need for state police to tackle rising insecurity at the grassroots.
So as we embark on this very critical process of reviewing the Constitution, we must know that it will not be an easy task. And it shouldn't be, because we are all different, from southwest to northeast, so we have different realities. But we must be guided by the principle of inclusiveness, equity, and justice. It is crucial that we listen to everyone, men, women, young, and old.
Also lending his voice, Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly, Honorable Oludaisi Olusegun Elemide, called for constitutional recognition of traditional rulers for their role in local governance and conflict resolution.
We stand by giving our traditional rulers roles in governance. We stand by that.
Civil society groups and public figures, including veteran actress Joke Silva, advocated increased women's representation in politics and leadership positions.
Beyond due respect is when we have the other 50% of the nation in decision-making positions.
Chairman of the Constitution Review Committee for the Southwest Zonal Center A, Honorable Ibrahim Isiaka, assured participants of the committee's commitment to fairness, inclusiveness, and transparency throughout the review process.
We are dedicated to ensuring that this process is transparent and that all stakeholders remain informed and engaged every step of the way.
Despite the complexities of constitutional amendments, participants say now is the time to prioritize justice and restructure the system to reflect Nigerians' current realities. Aniete Patrick, Global Television News.
National Assembly correspondent Aniete Patrick there following the zonal public hearing for us here on Global Television. Thank you so very much for your reporting tonight. Let's turn to other stories for you now. The Labour Party caucus in the Senate has issued a strong condemnation of Governor Monday Okpebholo of Edo State over his reported threats, warning former presidential candidate Peter Obi not to enter Edo State, describing it as an affront to Nigeria's constitutionally guaranteed freedom of movement. In a statement issued and signed by Senators Victor Ume, Ireti Kingibe, Tony Nwoye, and Ezia Oke, the lawmakers called on Inspector General of Police and Director General of the Department of State Services to urgently investigate and act on the matter before it escalates into a security crisis. Some members of the opposition have recently joined forces to form the African Democratic Congress ADC. The ADC, once a relatively quiet player in the national politics, is now raising the stakes against the ruling All Progressives Congress APC. Can the ADC defeat the ruling party in 2027? In this report, our correspondent Ubong Osoro asked citizens of their opinions about the new party.
Nigeria's political history is filled with dramatic power shifts, from the dominance of the PDP for 16 years to the emergence of the APC in 2015. Now eyes are on whether another shift is coming. In July 2025, opposition heavyweights, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party's Peter Obi, former Senate President David Mark, and former governors Ralph Arabiola and Rotimi Amechi, united under the ADC platform. The coalition chose ADC as its vehicle to challenge APC's grip on power in 2027, citing the need to prevent one-party dominance and to present a united front. David Mark now serves as interim national chairman, while Arebeshola as interim secretary. Founded in 2005, the ADC had previously maintained a modest presence in national politics, but this recent coalition has breathed new life into the party, turning it into a centerpiece of opposition strategy ahead of the next elections.
It's not possible for them to unseat the sitting government. What are the reasons? This is a government, the candidate, which before now he was not in the system like being in the government, but he find his way to become the sitting president. So you know there is a way the Nigerian politics work. It is not possible you just come and unseat a sitting president.
Observers say the move mirrors the 2015 alliance that brought APC to power. The question is, can history repeat itself?
I don't think they will be able to win APC, because when a man who has not been in the seat can be able to win and come over, now that he's sitting, I don't think they will win him, because he has every power to put everything in place as soon as it concerns his growth in the office.
If they do the right thing, I believe they will collect it. What is there that they're supposed to zone it, the place supposed to be, that is south. It's turn of south. It's 8 years. So if they zone it to the south, understand, let's assume that they give it to the south, south will run for it. But if we go to north, definitely they will lose it.
As preparations for 2027 intensify, the real battle may be between the old guards and a united opposition seeking to disrupt the status quo. Ubon Usoro for Global TV.
Well, thank you, Ubon. You're watching the live broadcast of News Prime with Uyi Agmofwebe. When the rest of the news returns shortly, federal government to enforce vehicle load clearance limits on bridges. Details coming, plus business, foreign and sports stories for you on the other side of this break. Please do stay with us. Thank you so very much, everyone, for staying with us here on the news tonight. The second part of this broadcast now returns with business. Nigeria's first exploration and petroleum company has entered into a strategic agreement with the Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation to assess and potentially develop the Mnazi Bay North Block, a gas-rich area in southern Tanzania. The agreement, formalized through a memorandum of understanding signed in Dodoma, is a major step forward in Tanzania's bid to harness its vast hydrocarbon reserves and improve energy access across the region. Held at Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation headquarters, bringing together senior government officials, industry leaders, and other stakeholders. The federal government has announced plans to enforce nationwide weight and height limits for vehicles on bridges to protect critical infrastructure from further damage. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, said this in a statement published on the official website of the ministry, attributing the degradation of key bridges to overload and overheight trucks. Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani has inaugurated a multi-stakeholder committee to oversee the fair and transparent distribution of over 300 truckloads of fertilizer to 100,000 farmers across the state as part of efforts to boost feed production and rural livelihoods. State's Agriculture Commissioner Muratala Dabo noted that the distribution will be closely monitored at both states and local levels, with the committee comprising representatives from civil society, traditional and religious institutions. Let's take you to the foreign scene now, where the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services has announced new immigration-related fees for several categories of visa issuances, including asylum, parole, and temporary protected status, effective from July 22, 2025. According to a Federal Register notice released by the services, the new fees were introduced under a new United States law known as H.R. 1. Pope Leo XIV has slammed the barbarity of the war in Gaza and urged against the indiscriminate use of force just days after a deadly strike by Israel's military on the Catholic Church. The Pope, who spoke by telephone with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after the strike, spoke of his deep sorrow for the attack on the Holy Family Church. At least 14 people have been confirmed dead and 12 others are missing after relentless downpours triggered widespread flooding and landslides across South Korea, devastating homes, submerging roads, and displacing nearly 10,000 residents, with significant damage reported to farmland and livestock. And now time to go to sport. Fabrizio Romano says Galatasaray and Napoli are in the final stage of completing a transfer deal for Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen. The agreement, reportedly worth a total of 75 million euros, will see 40 million euros paid up front, with the remaining 35 million euros to be settled in a year. As part of the negotiations, both clubs have agreed on a penalty clause designed to prevent Osimhen from being sold to any Italian club within the next 2 years. Club Brugge are demanding 40 million euros from Fenerbahce for midfielder Rafael Onyedika. Fenerbahce attempted to sign the Nigerian international last summer, but were frustrated by Club Brugge's excessive demands. Let's talk a bit about boxing now. Ukraine's Oleksandr Usyk has delivered a masterclass performance at London's Wembley Stadium, knocking out Britain's Daniel Dubois in the 5th round to become the undisputed heavyweight world champion. The 38-year-old southpaw, who now holds the WBA, WBC, WBO, and IBF titles, floored his much younger opponent with a devastating left hook just 1 minute and 52 seconds into the round, capping a dominant display that extended his professional record to 24 wins with no losses. Tonight we end Global TV News Prime with a look at some of the big stories. President Bola Tinubu has visited Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State to personally attend the 8-day Fidal prayers in honor of the late Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetona, the Awojale of Ijebu-Land, who passed away after more than 6 decades on the throne. In business, the federal government has announced plans to enforce nationwide weight and height limits for vehicles on bridges to protect critical infrastructure from further damage. On the foreign scene, Pope Leo XIV has slammed the barbarity of the war in Gaza and urged against the indiscriminate use of force just days after a deadly strike by Israel's military on a Catholic church. And finally, in sports, International Chess Day, a global celebration, one of the world's oldest and most strategic games. Here in Nigeria, the chess community marked the occasion with a strong focus on youth development and national representation. And that's News Prime tonight. Thank you everyone for watching. On behalf of my colleagues who have made these broadcasts possible, we say we appreciate your time with us. Bye-bye.